is our payoff? What do we lose or make? Let's add it all up, figure out what the money ends up looking like. Sam, do you go by Sam or Samuel?
Either one.
Okay.
So they end the season 80,000 in the hole.
Okay, so they end the season 80,000 in the hole, so they've got 80,000 in debt. Okay. Just that?
Not a question.
Right?
So if they end the season 80,000 in debt, does that mean they can still participate in the next season?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not done for with an 80,000 debt. Okay.
Yeah, so they won't, at the end of they won't necessarily, like, they're not going bankrupt if they end 80,000 in debt. That's an important clarification point.
Yeah, because that's a big unknown. Like that's an entire off season to like improve and stuff like that. That's what I was thinking too.
Okay, so you're saying, okay, so 80,000 in debt.
So
Gotcha.
you're risking losing everything over this one race where you could potentially have another entire season to make it up.
Gotcha. Pat?
So 80,000 in debt exists whether you race or don't.
Okay.
Actually, at the beginning.
So you're saying that this actually is something of a sunk cost.
Right.
There's my eraser. So you wouldn't put that $80,000 up here.
You know, it'd be at the beginning. It doesn't
Okay.
matter which way you go.
So we are already 80,000 in debt.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. So what do we end up with at the end if we don't race?
The 15,000 you get back from the entry fee.
Okay, so we get 15,000 back because we've gotten our entry fee back.
You still have to pay the 25,000 on the sponsorship.
Okay, so we are.
You have to return our money, so you're 10,000 down.
So we are, now 25,000 to return back to the sponsor. Good. What else do we have? One more number up there, right?
You lose the 800.
We don't lose the
No,
800,000.
yeah. No, there's a risk.
We keep the 800,000, right? We have that 800,000 that we're getting next year, right? So that means if we're at the end of this, if we don't race, we've got this, we're 80,000 in the hole already, but we end up with $790,000, right? In terms of money kind of received by not racing. So Brian, to your earlier point, we were 80,000 in debt, but we end up $710,000, in the bank in some sense, if we don't race. Okay, so that's what happens if we don't race. What happens if we race? What are the possibilities if we race?
You do finish in top 5, not top 5, or engine pull out first?
So that's a good question. We're going to have some splits that we've got to make here because there are different things that are going to happen, right? What should we split on first? So there's going to be a binary event.
Whether you finish or don't finish.
So finish or don't finish. That's a good do not finish. Okay? What is the probability of finishing?
62.5%.
62.5%. Okay. So the probability of not finishing must be the opposite of that, right?
37.
37.5%. Great. All right. So if we do not finish, there's another potential split that happens here.
Blown gasket, non-blown.
Yeah, gasket shut.
So gasket, not gasket. Okay. What are the probabilities here?
7.5%.
What's that?
Do not finish, not gasket.
7.5%.
Okay, so total this is, and the odds of reaching this not gasket is 7.5%, right? That's not the probability once we get here, but assuming that the total probability of getting to this branch, 7.5%. Okay, but and what about gasket?
I mean, assuming the same assumption, then it would be the 1 minus 7.5, right?
What's that?
Is it 92.5 then?
This is more complicated, right? Because now we've basically got to renormalize these probabilities. So we know that 37.5% of the time we don't finish, and when we don't finish, then some proportion of that is not because of gaskets, some proportion of that is because of gaskets, but our denominator now is 37.5% instead of 100. So it would be 7.5% divided by 37.5. You can, I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but this idea that this is 7.5% to get to this branch, this would be 30% to get to this branch, right? We're splitting this probability into those two branches, and we've got kind of our probabilities there. I'm gonna stretch these out a little bit more, so a little more room. All right. So let's start with kind of worst case. Well, let's finish up with a finish up here. What can happen if we finish?
Top 5.
80%.
So not top 5, and this is top 5. All right. What is the probability that we end up on this top 5 branch? Not 80%. Not according to the way we've been writing these things, right?
80%, 62.
80% of 62.5, which is what? 4/5.
That's a half, 50%.
So okay, so 80% of 62.5 is 1/2.
Yes.
Let me check and make sure that's what I also have.
I agree.
Yep, that's right. We also can know we have 24 total races, right? Got that in the data, and we know how many times we've ended up in the top 5. How many times have we ended up in the top 5?
7 out of 10, right? Oh.
80% of finished races are the top 5.
Yep, which ends up working out to 12. So 12 of the race out of 24, we've ended up in the top 5. That's 1/2.
Yeah.
7 out of the 24, we've blown gaskets, and so that's where our numbers are not quite adding up here. There's some rounding going on here, but I think we'll be all right. Yeah, 7 out of 24 is only approximately 30%. I think we'll be all right. Okay, so top 5, not top 5. Now, what are our payoffs in each of these situations? Let's start with a top 5 finish. What's that?
The $2 million is included, that's right.
So we get the $2 million.
And you still have 800,000.
We still have the 800,000. Anything else?
That was just the entry fee.
We already paid the entry fee though.
Entry fee, sunk cost. So we're not getting that back one way or another, and we're not having to pay anything else, right?
Right.
So here, 2.8 million. All right. What about not top 5?
So they don't get the 2 million, but they do get the oil sponsorship.
Okay, so no 2 million, but we still get the 800,000 because we didn't tow our car off the track. Great. What about not finishing but not blowing a gasket?
You pay 800,000.
Still the 800,000. And what about blowing a gasket?
I don't think you get anything, do you?
Yeah, I don't think they don't get either sponsorship, so that's just
More than hope.
blown engine fee though, right? Blown engine fee.
Yeah.
So what do we pay if we blow an engine?
50,000.
50,000. We're 50,000 in the hole, right? Okay. Now we should be able to use this to get a sense for, so if we finish top 5, it's 1/2 of the time. Not top 5, we didn't actually put down a probability here for what not top 5 was. What's the probability that we end up not in the top 5?
12.5.
12.5. That's because this is 50%, this is 12.5%, has to add up to the 62.5%. Is that right, Sam? Is it Sam that said it?
Yeah.
These masks make it sometimes hard for me to realize who was talking.
Yes, that is correct.
So talk with big motion and shake your head and stuff. Okay, so yeah, 12.5%. Great. So now we should be able to come up with expected values. So what is the expected value? And please break out your calculator so I don't feel bad. What is the expected value of choosing to race? I can do the expected value of choosing not to race. That one I can do in my head.